This is the Extra Mile.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Extra Mile. I'm Justin. That's G5. What's up, George?
What's up?
And there's Caleb. Hey, Caleb.
What's up?
We still haven't fixed your corner.
No.
You're just surrounded by curtains.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we
Corner
don't
blackness.
have any lights on you either.
No.
It's
I'm
getting worse.
Just in my darkness over here.
It's because we used our last microphone and more additional lights for our guest. George, would you introduce a guest?
Yes, we have Cal. We have Cal with us. We had a previous podcast with him a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. You should go check that out. And he talked about his testimony and his overcoming of addiction, and super good podcast. I recommend you guys listen to that. But we've brought him back on to talk about something different as we go into the new year. We're talking about new beginnings, opportunities. We're all faced with them. What do we do? What choices do we make? I listen to Cal's stories when I just talk to him. I imagine you guys do as well. And you just have these wonderful stories out of the blue. And I did this, and I did this, and I took this opportunity. And you're like, wow, you've done all of these things. And I was like, if anyone knows how to take opportunity, which doors to walk through, I think Cal knows what's up. So we're going to pick some of his brain for some wisdom and look at, just have a good conversation.
Confession time. Do you want some coffee?
Sure.
Can you use this one for
Yeah.
Cal?
Just a small.
Just a small?
amount, yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's fully leaded. It's got all.
No, that
of
cup
it.
can't be used for anyone.
Good to you.
I love this cup, by the way. It's got all of the philosophers on it. Your coffee cup, sir. So confession time. When George asked me to be a part of this podcast, I was like, no, that's not my thing. I do theater. And I was considering it because I really want to have like conversations. Your cup. I was holding it with my left hand. For those of you who are not watching it, I wasn't trying to slight our friend Caleb in the corner. All right, we've got the coffee poured. If you're drinking a cup of coffee at home with us, this cup's for you. And if you're driving, hopefully you've caffeinated and you're not going to run off the road. But so when George asked me to be a part of the podcast, I was just sort of reticent. And then he had released the episode that he had done with you and Kim. And I listened to that and I said, okay, if that's a podcast, I'll do that. So that's legit.
Well, awesome. First of all, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, of course, man.
Of
course.
That was a unique experience. Not been on a podcast, before that time. And so the interesting thing, you said something interesting, and I just want to clarify something. To talk about a person's life, to talk about their experiences, it can come across as saying, oh, I'm really great. I really have all of these, these great characteristics. And I have to say for myself that I am very pleased to be where I am in life. I'm very fortunate. I feel so fortunate, especially after digging myself into such a deep hole. But when I really look back at the influence of the scriptures and the church in my life as a young boy, that teaching, was instilled. And no matter what happened in my teenage years, no matter what happened in my early adult years, that teaching was there and it resonated. And it kept me from making some decisions. I didn't, I just wasn't wild and absolutely animalistic, but it's just far as, just trying to anesthetize some inward pain and then go through your life with that. It was it was a very difficult time. But with the knowledge of God being there, and I look back now, and it wasn't only that God was there, that he was taking care of me because he kept me from huge amounts of damage and trouble that I could have and should have probably gotten, gone through to as far as recompense, for what I was doing. But in coming and having, 35 years removed from that, I do feel I've been really blessed to know God, know that he was there. And then I remember what happened when life changed, when I made a different decision. And it was like, I remember the prayer. I think I mentioned it in the first one, that Lord, if I'm going to have a life after all of this, you're going to have to give it to me. I don't have what it takes. I just don't have I don't have the mind, I don't have the brain, I just didn't have the substance inside me. But I had that teaching from my early life, and so then to call on that just out of just absolute desperation and faith, and then to see, I look back now and I can just see that this is where the Lord was. This is what when He picked me up. This is who He put me with. This is what He did for me, all through those years, and so all that He did for me, not only to just restore my life, but then to fulfill, to fill my cup as the years went on, with getting, for Kim and I to be able to remain as a family and raise our kids together. And just then the opportunities that the Lord just put in our life, that was not anything I did. It was just absolutely the Lord just blessing me, and then I, felt like really all I did actually was what the Lord asked me to do, and that was, if we bless Him, He will bless you. And I think that's really, Kim and I we just blessed the Lord, for first of all for it not being as bad as it could have been, and then there were members of the church, there were members of my family, that, kind of jumped on the journey and started to learn what we were going through, why we were where we were, why I was where I was, and all of that, just created the structure and the story of my life, the movie. I look at my life as a movie. I wish everybody would, look at your life, because there's, as I guarantee there's a part in everybody's life. There's a section in there you want to edit out, So when you look at your life like that, and I look back at these opportunities and things, that is, what has made me, and brought me to where I am in life, and made me who I am. I don't consider myself to be a grand individual, or
sure.
I just feel forgiven and blessed, and so, but the Lord has done some just crazy things in my life, given me crazy opportunities, and that's like, but that's just me, and so to have to the answer, or to really to tell people who I am, what am I all about. I'm a 68-year-old Christian, married 48 years, 2 kids, 4 grandkids, living in Lubbock, Texas, and loving life, absolutely just loving.
Awesome.
Because the Lord has just been with us, and I know there's dark times still to come. The other shoe's going to drop at some point, but I'm ready. I feel like I'm ready for that.
Yeah, you're ready to tackle it. You got it. Now, what are some of these opportunities some big ones, some crazy ones?
Crazy opportunities. My early construction years, one of the first opportunities, I think the first one was maybe one of the biggest ones, was after graduation high school. My dad we didn't have a really good relationship, but the morning after graduation, I think it might have been because it was Friday night, and so he said in the morning, Saturday morning, I'm going to work at 6 o'clock. You either be in the truck or don't, And that was kind of like his way of telling me that, look, got a job for you if you want it. So I went. I got up. I was in the truck and went. And my dad was in the Carpenters Union in Seattle at the time. And this was 1973. And the union had closed the apprenticeship program it was like 7 years, because there was just no work in Seattle. It was after the big shutdown and the big Boeing layoff. So after all of that was finished, I went to work with my dad. They got out. I remember getting to the job site, and there were some men there. One of them was the business agent from the union, and my dad had befriended him. For some reason, those two just hit it off, and my dad's boss was there. And so all of those guys, we just had a conversation there, and they had already been talking and made the arrangement to bring me into the union, but they told my dad's boss, in order for us to bring him in, first of all, he's the first apprentice back in the union for 7 years, where the Carpenters Union across the world, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters, had not had an apprentice allowed in because there was just no work. Wow. So work was just starting to pick up. So they brought me in, was the first, apprentice allowed into it. And they told him, he had to pay 50% of the journeyman's wage, which was just way too much money for an 18-year-old. It was a lot. And it was something I didn't want to do. I did not want to do what my dad did. No, anything but this.
No, you were telling us you're not a carpenter. You're like, no, I'm good. Yeah, a second ago. Yeah.
So it was commercial construction, and interior treatment, interior construction. And it worked out to be, just the biggest opportunity of my life, because it gave me the opportunity to have the money to have a family, to make some good investments in the very beginning. And unfortunately, I misused it and misused the opportunity. I was just misguided, really. But that opportunity, ended up being one that was a foundation block of my life, because I would make large chunks of money, and I would take the opportunities to travel. So not all the men like to travel. There was a lot of them just didn't like it. And it was like, you're going to send me to Alaska, out in the Aleutian Islands? Well, for some guys, that was just, I don't want to do that. That's just, and I'm like, when do we leave? And so to be able to for the first time, really to get out of the state and go work in these incredible places. Out the very end of the Aleutian Islands, I could see Russia from where we were working this construction site, and just getting paid massive amounts of money. So, that was kind of the things that, of those things. But during those opportunities of doing construction, I would burn out. I would just get to the point where it's like, I just don't want to do this. What can I do different? So I would start to look for an opportunity to do something different. And so, of course, you're going to look for something that's interesting, or, that you're interested in. And doing that allowed me to pile up money, quit, go do some other things, and then if it didn't work out, I would just go back and make a pile of money. But in those times of burning out, I look back on it now, and it's like I wouldn't recommend that for everybody, because not everybody can recover, and just from those kind of choices. So one of the first ones was from going from construction was to move to Amarillo, Texas for 2 years.
Wow.
And become a disc jockey in a radio station that I wanted to be. We got to Amarillo, heard this radio station, like country rock.
Why Amarillo?
Well, because we had family here.
Okay.
And so, I told you in my first story, moving from Lubbock when I was 10, my dad just took us up there, and so Texas was always my home. So the first opportunity, we had made some money in real estate, so we sold out, came to Amarillo, Texas.
Okay.
But that kind of speaks to one of the questions, that you had put here as far as looking for opportunities and how do you recognize, an opportunity.
Yes.
So I'm going to say about that, as I kind of filter this into the story, that you can wait on opportunities, or you can create an opportunity. You really can. So being that I was here, had money, didn't need to work, bought a motorcycle. It was awesome living in Amarillo. 7 o'clock in the morning, motorcycle rides. It was just warm. It was
Route
great.
66.
What's that?
Route 66.
Oh, yeah. Get up on the highway there. So I drove past this radio station, recognized the call sign. It's just something is like, I've always wanted to do this. And, and if there was ever an opportunity to get into it, that's the kind of music, that's the kind of station I'd like to work for. So I remember pulling into the parking lot, going in, talking to the girls in the front, hey, I want to be a disc jockey. I just went in, Well, and they were I remember these two, they were Texas girls, blonde hair, and they had the accent and everything. And I said, look, I want to be a disc jockey. I'm in boots and jeans, carrying a helmet. I'm just ratty. And they're like, well, you want to talk to Shotgun, and so he was the program director. They go get the guy, bring him out. He says, I told him, I said, hey, I want to be a disc jockey. Wanted to be a disc jockey since I could talk. And he says, well, you don't have the rural accent, you don't have. So he said, well, come with me. He says, we don't have any openings, but come with me. He puts me in a room with a tape deck and a headphone and a microphone. And he had torn some sheets off of the AP wire roller. That's how they used to get the news, right? So he takes them in and he puts me in this room. He says, put those headphones on, push this button, read these, tell me about yourself, and turn it off and bring me the tape. Of course, okay, now I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. I am shaking to death. So I did it, and I stumbled through it. Normally I felt like I could read really well, so I stumbled through that, and get the tape done, take it to him. He says, yeah, there's a school in Austin. Don't call us, we'll call you, kind of thing. And I thought, okay. But, hey, it was just something, on my heart that just said, here's your opportunity. Why not? Why not? And so I get back on my motorcycle. I take off. I go ride around. I pull in the driveway. This is now like about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Pull in the driveway. Kim comes out the front door of the house. Radio station called. They want you to call them back. What's that all about? Because she had no idea. I had no idea. So I called them back, and they said, yeah, we listened to your tape, and we feel that you're better at what we need you to do than the guy that we've had on at midnight for 6 months. You are better than him. If you want the job, you be here at 9 o'clock tonight, and you'll be on the air at midnight.
Dang.
Wow.
So we're that opportunity, you know, I mean, that's a two-sided one. It was like, yeah, you know, the Lord put me in Amarillo, and it was something. It was just fulfilling something that I always wanted to do. So I did that for 18 months. But that was enough time to really get it out of my system and realize, you know, that there's no money in that. So that was just, you know, one of the first jumping offs, and so it, you know, unfortunately, it just wasn't time to be back in Amarillo, and there's another dynamic to that, and that's, you know, through making choices that, you know, going into it, you shouldn't be doing this, because the Lord just put up every roadblock, and we just plowed right through them. Well, it was like, nope, I've made up my mind. I'm going back home to Texas, and it did not work out, and it was a big financial failure, and don't bring it up around Kim. So, no, it's fine, because we learned a lot.
So
you know, in every one of these
listen
steps.
to these things that.
That was, like I said, in everything that I, you know, would say, whatever you guys allow me to, you know, get into some of these opportunities and experiences, that is the overshadowing. That's the principle. If I could, you know, stress to anyone, it's great to have an idea. It's great to try to make an opportunity for yourself and pursue your dreams. But the Lord has a way of telling you yes, no, or not now. And that is where, you know, I'm looking back at my life and how I live now. It's like, if I get an idea now and I start pushing through it, first of all, it's prayer. And that prayer is, Lord, if this is good for me and my family, you know, and you want to allow me to do this, I'd be grateful and thankful. But when I start seeing those pushbacks and those roadblocks and those things, it's like, yeah, that's the Lord's way of telling you either no or not now, just not now. And I would say this too, that to have those doors opened, you know, when you go to push through to do something, to make a choice, take an opportunity, you know it. You know, you can feel it, that this is good, or this is maybe not something I should be doing, or there's just, you know,
Yeah,
and
there's
we're not
something
talking
about
matters,
it.
yeah, we're not talking about matters of sin. We're just talking about matters of just wisdom. And,
Right.
So in all of those, when you kind of have all of that, and of course, at some point in my life, I was looking back at hindsight and seeing how the Lord works. Now I look at my life and I see the foresight. Like, you know, if I do this and the Lord wants me to do it, it's going to be great. And it's going to be greater than anything I could have planned for myself. However it turns out, it's going to be better than anything. If I put it all on a menu and said, you know, at the end, this is what's going to happen, the Lord will make it so much better, so much more. But it's just letting Him, you know, over Proverbs, of course, the scripture of the Lord, it's not within man to direct his own steps, you know, and I believe that. But I do believe that the Lord wants to direct our steps, but we have to pick up our feet. You pick up your feet and pray about it, and when you put your foot down, whichever way it's pointed, that's the way the Lord wants you to go, you know, and He will. That's how He directs our steps, but we have to pick up our feet.
We have to take the initiative.
We have to take the initiative, you know, to do those things. And so combine that, you know, I feel that the Lord wants us to enjoy our life, to enjoy the fruits of our labor, and to, you know, to live a joyful life, and to hunt, fish, you know, all of the things, explore, whatever, build something, you know, restore something, whatever your thing is, that He does want us to do those kind of things. But He does want us to give Him the glory for everything that we do. You know, and so I think that's another principle in it is if you're not thankful, you know, in the little things that the Lord is giving you, you know, why is He going to give any of us any more, you know, of those things? So, but yeah, so after the radio station, then the next one was went back to Seattle, moved back, worked a couple of years. A friend of mine had a jewelry store.
Okay.
And he repaired jewelry, and so we were both into cars and, you know, hung out a lot. So one Saturday I went to his shop just to have coffee, and he was working on a piece of jewelry, and it was a little chain. It was broken, and he took a torch, you know, did this little thing to weld this little. It was really a fine chain, gold chain. Put it back together, and I'm kind of watching him, and I'm like, you know, a monkey could do that, right? Of course,
That's
with friends like
oh,
these.
yeah, you know, that was just the kind of friendship. And he's like, oh yeah, and so he gets up and he says, sit down. And he gets another piece of scrap gold chain, you know, and puts it up on his bench and just cuts it in pieces and says, there's a solder.
Enjoy.
Enjoy, yeah. Knock yourself out. Well, he didn't know that, you know, being that I was grounded like my entire life from like 7 to 18, I modeled a lot of cars. I mean, put models together. And when you do it you're just, grounded so much, you get to wear hubcaps. So I built a model car, and I take it all apart because I had nothing but time. And I got to the point where I would cut all of the hair off of a paintbrush, the model car paintbrush, except for one hair. And I dip that in paint, and I would paint the speedometer needle, on the dashboard of a little model car. They have all the little, and the knobs, like on the dashboard. I'd paint them. I'd put a silver circle around it and then put a black dot on it with one hair. So my hand skills, unbeknownst to me, had gotten pretty good.
Yeah.
Kids,
Dexterity.
For those of us who are in our generation, this is what people did before the internet.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was a different world.
They got good, yo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I have some recommendations, about what to do now that we do have the internet. The best thing that happened to the world and the worst thing that happened to the world at the same time, So in doing so, I'm trying to make this show short, what happened, I sat down and I kind of gave me a little bit more, this is how it works and all of this. And I welded it and I didn't, melt that chain. And he just looked at me like, well, that's a fluke. And he did it again, and I welded it. And he's just like, that's just... I'm like, well, so I told him about the modeling, my hand skills and eyesight, they got pretty good. So long story short, he had 2 jewelry stores and he was having trouble, keeping one running and managing one. And so Kim and I ended up buying the jewelry store. I left construction and became a goldsmith and started this little store. So one day a gentleman comes in and he has a little bag of gemstones, and they were, they were expensive gemstones. And he comes in, and the store, sign said Goldsmith. So he says, he opens up this little pouch, and he says, I want to make rings out of these, and do you design? And I said, well, yeah, I could do a little bit, but I've got good designers, some people that I'd already met in the business. He said, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to put diamonds on here, and I'm going to do all of this, make them out of, this one out of 14 karat, this one out of 18 karat. So he left me these gemstones. And then altogether, it was probably $50,000 worth of gemstones that he left.
Wow.
So he came back, a little bit later. I had the designs, had a wax carved, with one of the stones and everything. And he's like, yeah, that'll work. How soon can you make them up? Of course, I'm thinking, this is expensive. This is going, I told him, I said, looking at what I'm looking at here, this is the cost. And he says, yeah, that's no problem. So took them, made them up, used all my resources in the jewelry business, made them up. He came back later, he picked them up, gave me a check, brought back even a bigger bag of stones. And after he saw what I had made, he left those, and he says, well, I'll make these up too, but I want duplicates of these and these. So it was another 10 or 15 ring order, and it was really expensive because this was all upper end jewelry. So I said, okay. So I got a hold of my jewelry connections. We put these together, made all of this for him. And the third time he came back and he said, he picked them up and he says, great. He says, I have a proposition for you. He says, I have the opportunity to make jewelry for the Home Shopping Network. We have a customer. We have an acquaintance who is one of the world-renowned gemologists, and they have thousands of gemstones. They want to get into manufacturing, and they sell the gemstones already on the Home Shopping Network, but they want to manufacture this into upper-ended jewelry, and which means duplication, lots of duplication. And he goes, I want you to consider selling your store, move out to my ranch where I have a jewelry manufacturing room, a little complex on his house, and come out and start building, and let's do this opportunity, this enterprise with these people. So I took the opportunity to do that. It was a big risk, but when they're dangling a carrot out there, that's another life story. We'll have that one.
Okay,
maybe another podcast.
On the edge of my seat.
Yeah, that all carrots are not what they're. So, long story short, did that for 18 months. Every 11 days, we provided somewhere in the range of $250,000 to $350,000 in. That was gross. That's what we charged the gemstone people to make all of this material. I had every jewelry company in the Seattle jewelry district pretty much on speed dial because it was, and he was paying, they were paying, and it was a great opportunity. But we did that for 18 months until one day he comes in and says, well, the gemstone provider, this company that was providing all the gemstones, they are taking all this to Japan. They're not going to need our services anymore. And so that was one of those things. I
Ouch.
was like, well, no. That
No?
was, by that time, I was like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you can't keep that. That was every 11 days delivering, And Kim and I had full control over everything. We were completely, we had everything. Kim did the books. He just brought the material to me, dropped it off, and we just had it down. I get the gemstones. I tell him what I need. And he had all of this material at his home, the gold, the diamonds, and everything. And I just tell him what I need. And the next morning I'd go out, and it was all in packets, all lined out, all designated, because we'd take it out, manufacture it, bring it back every 11 days, get another load of stones. So that was an opportunity to get out of construction. But when that 18 months was up, I went back to construction because it was like, yeah, I need to, do something. And it was good. I mean, it was a really good opportunity. But again, it was just like radio. It was just like, this is just not what I want to do the rest of my life. It's really not, So I went back to construction. The next opportunity that came after that was when my dad passed away. We had to, use the little hometown funeral home there in Monroe, Washington. Everything was great. They did a great job. About a month later, they called and said, hey, we want to come talk to your mom about prearrangement, because they didn't have any of the services picked, when your dad passed away. So you guys went through the whole, sit down, pick a casket, pick all of, and all of this. So he offered my mom. I told her sure. And so he came out. He offered my mom, and I was kind of skeptical. But I sat while he did this, and this guy presented this prearrangement and all of the dynamics to it, and I was really paying attention to it. And when he was done, I told my mom, I said, look, either you're going to buy that or I'm going to buy it in your name, and I'm going to make the payments on it. But that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And it was prearrangement and all of the dynamics of it. Absolutely recommend it. Highly recommend it. And then when he was done, I looked at the guy and I said, I can sell that. And he says, well, I don't think we really have any openings. And I said, well, who do I talk to? How do I? And he, well, I'll give you the name. And I called the guy up, told him, I said, hey, I have very little sales, experience, but I said, the presentation and what you guys are selling, everyone needs that. Everyone really needs that. And I could, if I can get behind something like that wholehearted, and believe in it, that's the first rule of sales.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
believe in what you're selling.
Yeah. So I went into that guy too, and just like the radio station, hey, this is what I want to do, so I put on a suit, went to a job interview, and wow, we're not really hiring, and I'm like, well, but
hire me.
I can sell this. I want to sell this. I could really get into. He's like, well, okay. So he did, and they brought me in, and I jumped into their system, and everything was going good. It went for maybe a year, I think, at the end of the first year. But their program was, one-on-one, kind of like the way they approached my mom, is after you came to the funeral home, then they made contact with you at the appropriate time, and it was a good system, the way they had it set up. But it was one-on-one, so everything was a one. So and this is one of the things that if I ever say this in front of my kids again, or to my kids or my grandkids again, they're going to punch me, and that is, there's got to be a better way to do that, or there's a better way to do this. So I looked at their system or their book that we use, our sales book, and so one night I just took it and took a razor blade to it, cut all the pages out, scanned the ones I want. I made a PowerPoint presentation, and this is another thing too. At the same time, I had a bluegrass band, so I'd been playing bluegrass with these other hillbillies. We were having a really good time. But where we played was every church, every senior center, because they love that music, right? And it was fun. It was just really fun. So I played every senior center, senior apartment complex, in the region. I don't know how many we'd done, maybe by then, maybe 20. So I had this built-in, market.
Yeah, this network.
Yeah, and I never thought about it until I got in the funeral business, this prearrangement sales business. And realizing that everyone I ever played music to, they need this. If they don't have it, they really need this. So I made a PowerPoint presentation. I got a projector from one of our groups. Went to one of the senior apartments and told them, I said, look, we'll play your next, my band will come back. They knew who we were. So I said, we'll come play your next party if you let me put on a seminar, for all the people here. And there's 200 people in this complex. So I said, I want to put the seminar on, and I'll provide lunch, and I did it all out of pocket. But I did this presentation. No one had done it before. I really only had permission from the guy that hired me. And he's like, knock yourself out. Sounds like a good idea. Whatever you need, let me know. So I did the presentation, and at the end of that 2-week period, in that sales cycle of that month, I went back and I handed in more contracts than they had ever seen from one individual in 5,000 funeral homes and cemeteries in the United States.
Wow.
So I dropped all of these contracts on them. They were just like, what? Of course, they look at them over, what'd you do here? You did something illegal.
We're mass communicating.
Yeah, we're really. So I told him what I was doing, and he's just like, man, whatever you need. So I developed this and started just going, and put it all into. Of course, they made me sales manager. That's when they want you to. Now you make sure everybody's doing that. You sell, which was fine. It was one of those things. But it was just keeping control and just putting, what the Lord put on my heart. Where like a guy like me get an idea to put a PowerPoint presentation? I was not a presenter, but I believed in what I was doing so much. It made it really easy, to put that together, to go make these sales, to get, for this to work into a really good employment opportunity.
For sure.
So it worked out. It was really good, right up until it wasn't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I'm trying to. There's some points of this. I'm trying to make this short, but to give you the
Cal,
just how every opportunity.
I'm just going to say, I will sit here and listen to you talk for weeks.
Okay, well, shut me up when it's done.
Quit making it short.
Okay.
This is amazing. I'm going to have another cup of coffee.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like I said in the beginning, this is not because I am the brightest bulb in the lamp. I'm not. I just feel blessed. I really feel blessed, and hope. And I'll try to remember at the end to tell you one of the reasons why I think the Lord has blessed me after everything that happened, all my choices when I was young, to where I am now. But in this sales opportunity, one day they called me in and they said, there's it was a high level meeting. They call them black suit meetings. So a high level meeting meant you had to wear your professional attire. It says we're having they're bringing in all of the sales managers for all of the funeral homes west of the Mississippi into Seattle, and they want you to present. The corporate headquarters that owns all of this said, we want you to present your presentation, your PowerPoint, seminar. We want you to present it to all of the high-level managers and owners. So thought, great. So I went into this, really expensive hotel. They rented a conference room. They gave me all the equipment, and I just got up and I said, this is what I do. And I just went through my presentation, and very, from beginning to end. And when I was done, and it was just, that's all I presented to them. This is what I do. So they had noticed the money. They had noticed the sales, from in Houston. Houston's where the headquarters of this place were. And it's still, the world's biggest funeral company. So they, all of these guys, and the managers, they basically, when it was done, they said, okay, thank you very much. And, we all ate nice lunch, and it was great. About 3 months later, they said, we have another black suit coming up. So, okay, I'd rather be out here selling. You guys are doing all that. I didn't want any part of that, but I just want to do what I'm doing. I'm having a good time. So they said, nope, you have another meeting and you need to be there. So my boss said, you can ride with me. So I met with him to go in. And on the way in, he says, now look, when we get there, he goes, don't do anything until we get a chance to talk.
Okay.
And this is, we're right in the parking lot, getting ready to go back into one of these big hotel, conference rooms. So I thought, okay, kind of weird. But so we go in, sit down, and it's a sea of, black suits and
Pull up, eject.
yeah.
Pull up, eject.
Yeah, I wish there. Well, that did happen, but I'll tell you how we got to that point.
Okay.
So I sit down, and this guy gets up, and he's, the professionalism. I shaved my goatee and everything during that period of time because I just, it was older people just have a thing, and maybe not so much now, but back in the day, just a guy with a beard, a little shady. So I shaved it all. I was clean cut, did everything I could, to be a really good salesperson. And this guy gets up and he's in khakis and a jean Levi shirt and his hair is, we're all going to be incorporating a PowerPoint presentation. You need to find a sales manager, a salesperson who will take this equipment and this presentation to all of your regions.
And it was your PowerPoint.
It was my program.
Yeah.
And they
Wow.
changed the name of it just a little.
And they bought you for a lunch.
Oh, they got me cheaper than that.
Oh, man.
Oh, they got me cheaper than that. So, it's one that if I say to this day, that's been a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
You know, I still have to swallow that pill once in a while because of the magnitude of that company and what they were doing. And what, you know, if they had just done what I felt they should have done, that's another story too. So what they, you know, that was mine. I built it. I developed it.
Yeah.
And so when it was over, I went out in the parking lot and looked at my boss and I said, you know, then I realized why he said, don't do anything until we have a chance to talk. I said, that was mine. And he goes, well, technically, no. He says, we checked your time cards. You built that on company time. That intellectual property belongs to us.
Ouch.
We can do what we want.
Wow.
So needless to say, the next morning they found my office keys, my computer, my laptop, my cell phone on my desk, and I was nowhere to be found.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they called me for a month after that, and I never did respond to it. I was just like,
You were
I just
hurt.
can't. Yeah, it was just, I can't. Why would I want to work for somebody like that? I mean, they could have come to me, but, and the thing was, what there was a monetary, you know, punch to it, because to be able to, you know, to get to that level of job, you're talking well into the six figures, you know, and travel and just do something you're really passionate about. I mean, that was where I felt, you know, I was headed. I never thought for a minute that they would take it the way they did. And so you learn from that. I learned a lot from that. And that was where, like I was saying, you know, kind of earlier, that the Lord, you know, will give you a yes, no, or a not now. And that was just like, nope, that's not for you. That's going to someone else. And so as you know, as the years go on, I mean, I really, you know, pray for the company. All the people that worked there, they were good people. The people, 99% of the people in the funeral business are spiritually minded people. You can't, you know, deal with the death of people's loved ones and stuff without having that element in your life.
A level of care.
Yeah. So needless to say, that was it. I'm unemployed again, and you know, but and I did that for 4 years. That was the best job I ever had. I absolutely really cherished that job. That was the best job ever. That was the one where I really saw God, and I saw the results. Really, I think what was most impacting was I saw the results of people's lives who did not have God in their life, and now their life was over. That's what I think I gained most from that. When you see that over and over, and then you would see the contrast once in a while. Here's a group of Christians that lose a Christian family member. It's a totally different world. It's a totally different experience, you know. And so when it's just so evident, you know, it's just you see that over and over. And it was, I don't know how many funerals, you know, I was responsible and participated in some level.
You got to see them when they're vulnerable, when they're hurt.
Yes. And so, you know, making decisions, and, you know, you continue from there making decisions. So after that, then I think I went back to construction for a little bit, but I was trying to think. I don't think I was. I think I was at the point where I just don't want to do construction anymore. Getting older, you know. By then, I think I was in my late 40s, early 50s, maybe early 50s, and then. So I got back into it for a little bit, but something happened. It was where I got sent to a project, and it was done. And then when it was done, right there during that, you know, call them up and get another project kind of days, I was like, take a little break. So I was sitting home, you know, just kind of enjoying my life. And my brother was a construction product salesman in a big company.
Okay.
And they were selling all of these interior components to all of these contractors in Seattle. Well, during that period of time, you know, Amazon had moved in, Yahoo had moved in, Microsoft had already been there, and all of these major companies were setting up headquarters in Seattle. And so they're building buildings, millions and millions of square feet. So my brother was selling this material to all of these contractors. And one contractor came and said, hey, we have this job, and we're, you know, just going down the tube. He goes, do you know anybody that can, like, has construction management or, you know, people management skills? We need somebody who can communicate, because we're having a major communication problem.
Opportunity in lap.
Well, yeah. So so he goes, well, my brother's sitting home doing nothing. Call him up. And so the guy calls up and he says, hey, and I knew who he was. I knew his name, and I knew he had a good reputation. So I said, well, let's meet. And so I met with him. He fed me lunch and gave me the spill. He says, we have a major construction project in Seattle that we're in trouble. He goes, we need someone who can talk, from our group to this construction, to the general contractor. And it ended up that it was an $8 million subcontract that this guy had. If he didn't fulfill this contract, they were going to pull the contract, which would have ruined the guy. And he'd been in business for 35, 40 years. Mm-hmm. They said he said it will ruin us if they pull that. We have to do whatever and your brother says that you have the gift of gab, and like, wow. I'll slug him later. No, what do you mean? Like whatever. But it intrigued me, and it was kind of one of those things that here's an opportunity that just kind of came to me. I wasn't looking for this one at all. He came to me and he said, would you be interested in helping us out? We need some leadership and stuff. So it was in the trade, one of the trades that I could do. And so I said, look, I'd be interested in doing it, but I'd like to do it this way before I give you a yes or a no. I said, let me come and work for you on this project for a week and see who are the players, what is the circumstance. And he said, no, that'd be great.
So you're a new guy.
I'm a new guy, low
That's
guy on the
smart.
pole. Yeah,
You're smart.
Low guy on the pole. And I come in, and of course,
and they treat you like they.
Oh
treat you.
yeah, you talk about kicking the dog. Oh, it was brutal.
Guess what? I'm your new boss.
That's exactly the way it went too. And I know, and it was kind of almost. I look back on it and I think, did I take that job because it was really smart and a good opportunity, or did I just want to put it to those guys because they were rat bags? Oh, they treated me so bad. So yeah, and it came, where I looked the situation over, and then so on a Monday morning, he gave me complete liberty. Just do whatever you can, if you think you can. And I told him, well, I gave him some parameters. I said, this is what I would do. First of all, let's assess it. And he thought, well, that's a good idea, and so to be right there on the ground floor, kind of who are the players, what's really going on, put my finger on the pulse of this project. So Monday morning, I put two of the apprentices at the doors, and I said, when these guys come in, everybody that works for this company, send them to this room. And we had a designated room for lunchroom and all of that. And there were 47 men on this crew. And I was handed that crew that Monday morning. And so they all come in, and the owner of the company says, yeah, this is your new boss. He says, whatever he says goes. And so, it was one of those, it was just an opportunity where I realized the importance of it. I mean, it wasn't, at that point, it was not about, it was not about me. It was, these people need help. God has given me an opportunity here. And when I look back on it, the day it finished, the day that he says, look, we have other projects, can you want to, and I'm like, nope. This one about killed me because it was big. It was an important deal. And what it was with the Bill and Melinda Foundation building the headquarters of the Bill and Melinda Foundation in Seattle, right there in the Seattle Center. Wow. It was a $650 million set of buildings, and that was just one portion. One contract that was $8 million. And so I do take pride in it that I did the best I could, but I realized, pretty quickly I was in over my head. This was big. But I really wasn't scared. I really, it was something that was concerning, every day to get up and go to work because you got, a company's future in your hand. All these guys that work for the company, and there were just 47 from that company on one job, and they had a lot of other projects. But it would have bankrupted them if the general contractor had pulled. What it came down to, it was a supply issue. Everything that we were installing in that Microsoft building was coming from Sweden, so it was all manufactured overseas, shipped in crates, and it was all individually manufactured dimensional panels, and every panel was designated to go somewhere in the building in that spot. And you had, it was just a constant, nightmare. And, but I feel that the Lord again was there and just kept me, and just gave me the right people. He put it all, and I prayed, for myself, Again, it was because I realized, that man, it was a great opportunity, but it was. I might have should have gotten a little more experience, before I did that, but. Now, when I look back on it, it's like, no, now I have the experience. That's one way to get experience, You just bite the apple and you just chew on it until you chew it up. So the project, when it was done, was I really felt relief. I felt a huge amount of relief and pride in the fact that when it was over, I told them, they said, hey, we got these others, you're interested in staying on with this? And I'm like, no, I need a break, because this was, again, it was a year and a half of every day, downtown Seattle into that. And it was just crazy stress. But it got better. I mean, it really did at the very end. I mean, it was not something I couldn't handle at the end. But when they came to me and they handed me an envelope and they said, the owner of the company and his main guy said, we just want you to know you saved us. You saved us.
Wow.
And I was, and it took me a couple of days, to kind of absorb that and to think, I knew going in that they were in trouble, but when they came back and I could just see it in their face, that they were just like, dude, you saved us. And then, of course, I opened the envelope a little bit later and I was like, yeah, I'll save you again. You need saving again. Call me. So that kind of, it all worked out. It worked out for everyone. But it was just from that, the guy saying, hey, I need someone, and my brother saying, yeah, my brother's not doing anything. Give him a call. So there, when these opportunities come, and these just don't come to me. I'm not the only guy in the world that has these things that they just come to you. And I'm not the only guy who is walking around with, an opportunity a foot away. And so one of the questions that we had discussed, and kind of talked about here was, how do you recognize, how do you look for opportunities?
Yeah.
That's a loaded question in the fact that you can look all around, but if the Lord doesn't feel that opportunity is for you, you're not going to see it. He's not, really, and it's whether you're churched or unchurched, it doesn't matter. These opportunities really, are the same. When the Lord, was it Matthew, where the Lord says that He causes the sun to shine on the just and the unjust. The opportunities are pretty much the same for everybody. But when you make a decision to explore an opportunity, you're going to do it on your own, or you're going to do it with the Lord's help. That's really, I'm looking back at my life of 68 years and the great, working opportunities and opportunities I've had, and that is the dividing key right there. It's you do it on your way, or you let the Lord direct your steps. And well, if you believe, that it's not within man to direct his own steps, well, that kind of leaves you with, well, if you do it, let's just put faith in the Lord, ask for His blessing as we go into this, and let's see what happens. And so, I can't stress that, enough.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But do you feel like the opportunities you had led you or helped give you the experience you needed for that next opportunity?
Absolutely.
Or that next...
Absolutely.
Almost like scaffolding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But and there's a lot of things I was going to say, like if I do talk to other, to people. I do counsel in different levels, and I try to keep it in life principle. It's the same principle for everyone. So, as men, I'm going to ask you guys, to look at where you are in life. When we look at what we know about Jesus from the time He was 12 till He was 30, really, there's Luke 2:52, describes that whole period of time. He advanced in wisdom, stature, favor with God, favor with men. Mm-hmm. So really, when you look at that, in terms that we use today, it's wisdom. I mean, with mentally, physically, spiritually, and socially. Mm-hmm. So, when as a young person, no matter what your circumstance is, and if somebody listening to this is like, well, I am in a really bad place, inner city, poor, whatever, this principle applies to everyone. That your strength mentally, physically, spiritually, and socially is what gets you from moment to moment through your life. If a circumstance comes to you that is affecting you, it's one where let me put it this way: if a circumstance comes to you daily, every day, where you need to be really social, to diffuse, de-escalate a conversation, an argument, or some sort of a discord, between people. Do you have the mentality? Do you have the social skills, communication skills, to go and help them to get through that? Because, every moment of every day, all four of us, till the moment we die, need strength in all four of those areas at some point. And one day I need physical strength to do something. I don't need a whole lot of mental strength, to rake a yard. But, when it's somebody else's yard, to help someone, the mentality behind it, to be social enough to do it, to just do things. We're called on every moment, all day long, to do something, to have some level of strength mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually. And so when you talk about the experiences as I went through them, each one of them, each experience as I passed through it, everything that the Lord did for me, that strengthened me in one or multiples or all of those areas in my life. And again, you don't see it when you're right in the middle of it. It's like weightlifting, or, you're going to buff up or whatever you're going to do. You don't see the change in you while you're right in the middle of it. You just see the effort. And so when these opportunities came, that I look back on them, and like I say, I'm in retrospect looking at these, and every single one of those, whatever level of strength I had in those four areas of myself, that was what got me through. And evidently, I had enough, to make it from point A to point B. But that is the biggest life lesson about opportunities: is no matter what opportunity you create for yourself, no matter what opportunity comes to you, whatever level of those four attributes of mankind, whatever your strength is in those, will get you through that, or the lack of strength will cause you to fail in that. And so when you're young, you have these opportunities. Like I say, don't bite off more than you can chew. That's a little dangerous. That can set you way back. But if you take a look at it, don't be afraid. And one of the questions that you put in here is, people feel stuck. Why are so many young people? Why do they feel stuck?
Yeah, it seems like they're just looking for things. They're looking for meaning. And was there something else I put in that question as well, where I said, they feel stuck because we live in the age of information,
right? And
we have so many. It seems like opportunities. You can learn so much. You can have entire college courses free at your disposal, just at at Google's click. And yet, so many people feel like, I don't know what I want to do with my life.
Right. And I've been thinking about that, since I saw the question, and kind of, I've in the back of my mind, kind of have I have an understanding for myself, why I think, I was stuck, why other people get stuck. The life lesson, I would say, about that is your circumstances and your environment have a lot to do with what choices you're going to make. And not having an understanding of who we are as a human, as an individual, to understand who I am. Growing up, no idea. Having any kind of direction in life, that this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I had none of that. It was fly by the seat of your pants, hit the wall, pick yourself up, and, start flapping your wings again. That was, so having been raised that way, I made a pretty good point not to raise my kids that way. Not to, I realized that, when my kids were pretty young, and when the Lord, restored me to some mentality, that I realized that the what my kids needed in life more than anything was to understand who they were. Who are you? Because the vision of your life, the vision, and I think I coined a phrase. This is my phrase I think I coined. If somebody has it somewhere else.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. The vision makes the decision.
All right.
So the vision. So how do I see myself? Well, if I'm, broke down and I'm, useless, my influences, have kept me pretty well under the thumb, and I have no value. I'm worthless. I don't, and it's not that they're telling me that. It's just that's what I am being inculcated with is that, hey kid, we're poor and broke. Don't think you're going to have a big life. It's just not going to happen. If that is what you're instilling in a child, that's pretty much going to be until that child gets to the point where that doesn't work, to the point where they're ready to, they're not going to accept that anymore. They're going to go down a different road. But if you can get a child on that road, that this is who you are, with boys, to tell a boy, this is your last name. This is, of all the things in the world, you may never have anything, but you have a name. And that's going to be with you the rest of your life. Protect that. That's your reputation. That's everything. And your name at some point is going to, it can work against you because of your reputation and your choices, or your name can work for you and your name gets ahead of you as a reputation. So making sure that you understand the value in your name and who you are. And that's like, well, who am I? And having that answer, I've had for years stronger understanding, I feel, than I've ever had about 1 Peter 3:15, to sanctify the Lord in your heart and be ready to give an answer. Be ready to give an answer. Well, if I say to you, well, who are you? Well, I'm, let's see, I'm 48, and it's like, well, do you really have an answer? Is that telling me about you? But I just got to a place where I started getting a confidence, and then the Lord gave me some successes, which kind of, contrary to the way I was raised, I started to feel that value, that I am valuable. I do. So who am I? Who am I? When all's said and done, at the end of the day, Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new under the sun, and
right.
And the whole duty of man is to serve God. At the end of the day, how am I going to put this? Knowing who you are and how you see yourself is going to influence every decision that you have the opportunity to make. Not every decision you make, every opportunity. So if you look at yourself like, I don't have the experience, I don't have the value, I'm afraid, then you're not looking at yourself as the success on the end that you could be. If I do this, if I realize who I am. So my tape that I roll about myself is that I'm a 68-year-old Christian. And so I put them in, I feel in the value. I'm a 68-year-old Christian. I am the husband of a girl for 48 years, which, I look on that, and of course, you guys know the statistics, but most of us at our church know that's our normal,
Right, yeah.
Normal situation. But so to have that, I married. I have 2 children. My 2 children are successful. I have 4 grandchildren. I have this tape in my head that tells me who I am. So as that is, my belief and my belief system, my value system for myself. So when an opportunity comes up, it's pretty easy for me to look at that and say, this is something that I should be doing. I could be doing. What's the benefit in it? But the thing is, to get away from looking at it, what's the benefit in it for me? It's like, what's the benefit in it for God? Why would I make that distinction before I do anything? Moving to Lubbock, Texas, what was in it for me? It really didn't matter. After my life's experiences, that really didn't matter. It's, Lord, if this is, if we can go and be blessed and be a blessing, then wherever you send us, that's, that's your will in our life. And we're ready for it because it's always been great. He's not, disappointed yet. And in everything, I'm not saying it's been easy, but in all of the decisions and opportunities, there is a point where you are called on to, to be faithful, to be the light of the world, to take the light of Christ, put it in someone else. That is the purpose in every decision that we should be making. And if I had had more of that instilled when I was younger, I'm not saying I wouldn't have taken the opportunities. I think I would definitely have not stressed the opportunities, I think, as much as I did. Because I didn't have any experience. And I had no one in my life who had experienced that. And so to be unstuck, I've never felt stuck in my life.
Really?
Until I was, but except when I was an addict.
Right.
You know, when I hit the bottom of addiction, I was stuck. And that was where, like I said, that prayer that, Lord, if I'm going to have a life, you're going to have to give it to me. Mm-hmm. So I had no idea what was going to happen after that. It was just, I had no expectation. When you're just like, I'm done. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. I don't know where to go. I don't have anyone. Burned all my bridges. I mean, everything like that. That's when you get to the place where then God can really, that's when He can.
That's when He can use you.
Yep, that's when He can use you. And
so
so the, at that point, I think you guys, I don't need to go into more. I think there was one other. Let me tell you about one other. So this guy. I think there were two more that were, but the next big one was I wanted to retire out of construction, start pulling my pension, but I didn't want to pull health insurance out of my pension. So, out of the monthly payment. So I said, you know what, I want to retire from construction, I want to pull that, and I'll just get a hobby job that's got health insurance. So I like big boats, and I was like RVs and traveling, and so I told the wife, I said, look, I'm going to get a job in a marina or in an RV company where they've got big RVs, and because if I get in and if I'm really a good employee, they'll let you use that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that beats buying it. What's better than having a boat? It's having a friend with a boat, right? So with RVs, I thought, the RV, if they have to get to, because we like camping, we like all that stuff. So there was a Ford dealership that had closed overnight, big dealership, that they did something illegal. Ford swooped in, took their cars overnight. And this building that they had just built, big build, beautiful, sat empty for 5 years. So the week I decided I'm going to retire and get a hobby job, in RVs or big boats, the marina. I drive by that building and there's a big sign, coming soon, open road RV, big RV place, like 3 blocks from the house. So I thought, wow, okay. Perfect. So I just made a little turn, went right in, and there's a guy pressure washing. And this remind me of the radio station. Guy was out there pressure washing. I said, hey, you know anything about this? Yeah, this is a business my wife and some of her friends from this other big company. And I knew of them. They were way down South Seattle, the Tacoma area. He says, yeah, they're going to start this business. They're going to, open this up. And I was like, really? I said, there are job opportunities? He goes, I don't know. She's inside. Go ahead and see. So I went in and walked in, and this is what reminded me of this Texas gal. She was from Texas, blonde hair. Real attractive gal. I said, hey, your husband said I should come talk to you about a job. She goes, sure, we're going to be opening up, and we need all kinds of people. So she says, so would you be applying for? I said, I can sell, but I don't want to be an RV salesman like all the time, because I knew that was Saturday and Sunday, every trade show, and I'm trying to keep the door open. Like, yeah, if you need some help doing that, I'll do that. But I don't do it all the time. And I said, I'm being a carpenter and a mechanic, and I have a shop of tools. I've restored classic cars. I said, I could work on them, and I know a lot about electrical, plumbing, and structure, but I don't want to be a tech all the time. And I said, she goes, oh, okay. And then I said, well, and as far as driving them, I pull a trailer. I've been pulling a trailer in Texas. They trained us on cotton trailers and peanut trailers since we were kids. So I can pull a trailer since I was a kid. So I, totally understand RVs. I've had RVs and, and I could move them and all that. But I just don't want to do that all the time. I said, so she looks at me and says, so you really don't want a job, do you? And I'm like, no, I guess I really don't, and I'm just like, and she looked at me and she says, I think we can work with that.
Wow. Of course she did.
I'm like, okay. She goes, yeah. She goes, the other owner will be in, and she goes, I'll tell him we talked. And she goes, I'm sure, because, we have no one. We have no one here.
Right.
She goes, I think we hired one tech to work on them, but, we need to set up the shop. We need to bring in RVs. We need to set up the offices. We need a lot of stuff. And I'm like, sounds good to me. We'll just take it day by day. So 4 years later, yeah, 4 years later, I did everything under the sun, for those guys. Whatever they needed, that's what I did. And then as the people came on, everything got into divisions and, this and that. But they came one day and they said, we're having trouble with keeping a service manager. We'd had 2 by them. And they were good people, but they just wasn't, things just didn't work out for them. So they came in and they said, hey, we want you to be the service manager, take over all the service. And, and of course, that was one of those things that ego was telling me, yeah, be the boss, because don't take this the wrong way. And don't take this as, but this is just Kim's going to kill me for saying it. This is one I have told my grandkids, and I've told a lot of young kids, but when it comes to your work life, if you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes. So think about that one, Bridget. Lead dog in a dog sled. If you're not the lead dog, and so you want to be the lead dog, you really do. And I kind of had that, mentality, now because I'm really, I'm in my 50s or something, and I'm like, yeah, be the lead of all of it. That's where you want to be, because they're following people. I've been under people's instruction, and it was not a good place to be. First of all, because I was more qualified than they were, but they didn't think so, So to get in and to take the opportunity to take over this whole big deal was one of those. It was like, for the first time in life, I was like, yeah, I could, but I'm not going to. I just don't need that. I just don't need that in my life. I'm just, let a young person come in and get those, take that beating like I took it at Microsoft, because it'll help them grow. It does make you grow, and so I turned them down on that, and just stayed in the loop with them until it was time. I didn't need that job anymore. I was able to fully retire and retired out. So that worked out to be really good. A lot of friends, had a lot of influence. Just loved the whole circumstance. But there was one where, when I was really. I like limiting God to what to do with my life, but at the same time, I kind of knew, what I could and couldn't do. I had freedom to choose. I didn't have to take the next job just to pay the rent. It was more of, how can I be blessed, and how can Kim and I be blessed, and how can we bless other people? And that's what it ended up being. Again, that kept me there for 4 years. We felt like we were being blessed, and when you say you want to go into RVs business, you have no idea how you're going to do it, and one pops up 3 blocks from your house in a building that's been closed for 5 years, you think maybe you should probably go check that out, because it's like, I think that might be what the Lord wants. And so I look back and I feel and I hope, that I was a blessing to them, like they were to me. And so then when that was done, I was thinking, okay, I'm pretty much done with my work life. I'm pretty much there. Went back, home, traveled around a little bit. Kim and I, we had bought a big RV, and we're coming down to Lake Havasu, and that's where we were going to move. We started to make our exit out of Seattle in the rain, and we were heading back south, back to warmer weather. Did not know that warmer weather was going to be hot, flat, and dry Lubbock, Texas, but that's okay.
That's all right. It's all right. It's going to be the worst weather.
Well, and there's worse people somewhere else.
There you go.
But not here. That has not been the case here. So I went back home, and this is the last one really that I will say as far as, and what I'm trying to get across here is so that as you listen to what happened to me and what the Lord gave to me, that in each one of these, they're similar, but then they're different. There's something different in each one. And each one of them required something out of me, but did it fit into, was I still able to be the person who I am? I am, X years old. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather, and I have some value. I have value. I have experiences. I have some wisdom. Maybe my biggest and strongest point of wisdom that I would give to somebody is how not to do your life. This is not. Don't make this decision. Don't make that. Don't make. I can give you a lot of. But that's not. That doesn't help. It's like because there's so many people that have already made the decision and they're stuck. And they don't know how to get out of being stuck. How do you get out of being stuck? And I'll say this. I know there are a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people, that they were so stuck that there was no way they were going to get out. But God can get you out. And so that's all you can tell them is like you're stuck. You're done. Unless you let the Lord do something with you, you're not going to. There's no hope. There's just no hope. But there's hope in God. There's more than hope in that.
Right. There's redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one that came along was after. So I'm thinking I'm done. I'm retired. I'm thinking I'm done. My son came into the trade like I was brought into the trade when he graduated high school. I brought him in. And of course, he didn't want to do it. But I told him, I said, look, he knew and I told him, about my dad. I mean, he knew all of that. And I said, look, all you need to do is just do this until you get vested in the union. So the vestation came for that particular trade in the Carpenters Union was in 3 years. If you do this 3 years, you get your journeyman card. You will be at the top of the wage scale. You'll have all these benefits, and you can quit and go do something else. And if it doesn't work out, you take your card, your union card, go any city in the United States, go right in their office, put it down, and say, I want a job. If they have an opening in your trade, they will send you right out to, how electrical works. And so,
well, I produced stage union IOTC.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. And but I said, with that card in your back pocket, you always have that to fall back on. And he knew, and I told him, he knew how I'd just go until I didn't want to do that anymore, do something else, and I'd fall back on that. That was, so learning a trade is something that, if you had told me in the beginning, going to college, and I was not a college person. I hated school. My son was the same in that characteristic, hated school. He graduated, but it was just by, C's and C minuses. That was it. And I was good with that because he was good at stuff. He learned at 6 years old that he was kinesthetic, hands-on. If you teach him how to do something with his hands, it's over. He just gets it instantly, and he's on to the next step. So he was very mechanically inclined. And so when he graduated, brought him into the union. He stuck it out. He goofed off, and it took him 4 years to get his journeyman card. But he got it. He got it. Yeah, he was not going to let that slide. And so all the money that he had invested in, to the union pension, once you're vested, then that stays in a pool until you pull it out at 62 or whatever the age is that they have. So and it just sits there and grows money. So I told him, I said, look, if you just put the day you start, you put money in it. The day you get your journeyman card, that's frozen and draws interest. So that's just one little thing you can do. In the meantime, you're going to have full health insurance, and you're going to make a lot of money. And so he got that with his first paycheck. Yeah, I didn't have to try to talk him into going to work after that. He was like, his first paycheck, when are we going to work? So he really buried himself in that, and then as soon as he got his journeyman card, an opportunity came up for him. A friend of mine had a big excavation company. He goes, I'm looking for somebody that I can train. I want a young man that I can train to take over my business and run my business, and I have just the person for you. So I went to my son, and I said, look, just like I did, use that stepping stone of that union carpenter and all of that. You got her done, I said, you probably, if you're like me, I know you're burning out, I said, so you've got this opportunity to go over here, but you're going to start in the bottom, but you can go from the bottom to the top in this, and I mean all the way to the top if you and he had no problem with that. He had totally understood that. He really understood what it meant to become the mentee of someone who's going to give you an opportunity. And that's something in today's world when we talk about kids, in this age of, information and they have all this opportunity. But when the biggest opportunity you'll ever have is somebody who takes an interest in you because they care about you and they want, and they need you. And this guy needed someone, and he was a good guy. He was a Christian, and he brought my son in and started teaching him everything about heavy equipment, property development, underground utilities, and that's what they did. And it was a big business. And this friend of mine, made a huge amount of income off of this company that he had. But he was at that point, in his 50s, and he wanted to move to Hawaii, which he did, and run his company from Hawaii, which he does. And so he brought my son in to this opportunity. So my son took the opportunity to do that. Some things changed. The guy that he went to work for in 2008 lost everything. But the guy that my friend who gave my son the opportunity, He closed his business, but he gave my son all the equipment that he needed to continue on his own business.
That's cool.
And so my son did that and started in 2008 when it was just the worst economy in 60 years.
Yeah.
He steps in and starts a business, and the Lord just gave him opportunity after opportunity. He got a contract with the city of Seattle, underground utilities, Seattle City Light, and to open up the streets and repair stuff. And once you do a job for them, if you do a good job, you're set. And so my son at 43, he just golfs the PGA courses all over.
Oh, wow.
After the PGA, he likes to go to the golf courses and just play golf. That's all. And he's 43 years old. So the opportunities that came my way and how I, was blessed through these opportunities, it took something on my part. The same with my son. It took something on his part. And for anyone who's listening to, this podcast today, I'm going to tell every young person, it's going to take something on your part. If you're waiting for someone to give you anything of value, who does that? Who does that? Especially when they look at you and they say, if I give you all this of value, my time, my energy, my wisdom, if I give this to you, what can I expect that you're going to do with it? Absolutely nothing. You're going to do absolutely nothing. And I will start, this process, mentoring someone again. Lord will give me someone, But so people look at you, like I say, for who you are. And for every young person that's listening, to what I'm saying now, that when you go into any circumstance, anywhere there's someone who can potentially give you an opportunity, they're looking at you. They want to know, do you know who you are, and do you know what you're going to do with your life? And it's very important, because somebody's going to give you something. That's, what do we do with our children? If you're going to give them something, first of all, it's like, well, who are you? Well, you're a little brat, and I'm not giving you anything because you'll trash it. So we kind of do that even as adults. We look at other adults and think, well, if I give you that, you're just going to trash it. So why am I going to give you? So to be someone who comes to me and people, I became the personnel director, in one more opportunity. I thought I was done, and so in that personnel director, when people came to me, I would make judgments on people, and when I started doing this particular trait, people would look at me like, that's messed up. That's messed up. And I'm like, well, think about it. Someone would come to me, and if I smell smoke on them, that they were a smoker, they went to the bottom of the list immediately.
Oh, wow.
Because smoking is an addiction, and an addiction motivates and drives emotion in people. You get with someone, I've worked with supervisors who smoked, and if they were in a confined space like an office and they couldn't go smoke, like sit at their desk and smoke, they had to refrain from smoking for periods of time, long periods of time. And I began to notice, that, if I'm going to go have a conversation with them, I need to wait till they come back in from their cigarette. They're totally different people. And so that swing and that mood swing that came from just smoking cigarettes, being a nicotine addict, and I'm just going to say it, that was a choice that I could make in someone I was going to hire, and I chose not to make it. It came down to skill, and it's like, yeah, you better be bringing a ton of skill and value to my world, because that right there, I know, is problematic. And why would I want to give myself that problem? And so when I make that judgment, and I want to say this to anybody that's young and saying, like, if you run into someone like me and some of the companies that put their trust in me to bring in the right people and the good people, if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm not bringing you in because of that fact. You can't control your life. How am I going to be able to control you and, give you job opportunity and control you when you're going to be at work? You're going to have health issues with that person because of nicotine addiction. You're going to have, they're going to be missing more work than anyone because they're going to be more ill. There's more illness that comes with it. So I'm saying that in a way, and people say, well, that's really trivial. And it's like, no, it's not. No, it's really not. And so to make those judgments and decisions, which side of the fence are you on? Someday you may be the person who has to make these decisions to bring good people into a company. They've given you an opportunity, a real opportunity. opportunity, and you can bring in the wrong person, and they can mess you up really bad. So making sure that you're very careful and know who you are. As a Christian, I want to bless this guy. If he smokes, I want to get him to quit smoking. It's not that I don't want anything to do with the guy. I'd like to see him get his life together and get away from that nasty habit, that monkey off his back. But in those, so the next and the last one that I'll bring up here is after the RV business, I'm home again, and my son is in his excavation. They're using dump truck companies to haul aggregates and equipment and all of this. And so a friend of his who was the same age, in his early 30s, mid 30s at the time. No, he was later 38. I think he was 38. He comes to my son and he says, this company's is taking off. I've got a baby. Now the wife wants to be home. I can't, run this company from the seat of my truck. And he was, driving one of the trucks himself and had a crew of 6 dump trucks. So he tells my son, I need a construction manager. I need somebody. And he goes, well, my dad's sitting home doing nothing. Kind of like my son threw me under the bus. Only, this was my son, this time, instead of my brother throwing me under the bus, my son threw me under the dump truck.
Oh, no.
So this young man contacts me and he goes, hey, your dad said, and this. And I said, well, I'll take a look at it. I really don't want to, I'm done. I'm really, comfortable. I really don't want to. And so he says, well, this is what it is. I got 6 dump trucks and all this and all this. And he had this company, and he was making big money. I think his revenue was around $3 million. And so he was doing really well. So I said, yeah, that's a little more stress that I want to take on. And he said, so I threw out a figure. And he said, well, how about that? Will that help you with stress? And I'm like, of course, right then, I just want to say yes. It's like, yeah, I'll go back to work for that, So being smug, I'm like, yeah, we'll throw a company truck in on that. And of course, I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say no, and then I won't have to do this, right? You put a company truck on it. Done. Okay. So I was like, okay.
More.
Yeah, so I go, check out the situation. And this poor kid, he's just flying by the seat of his pants. And so he said, look, well, whatever. So I started, giving him ideas. I said, look, you're scattered. You got trucks here. You got a shop here. You got to centralize. That's first of all. Well, that's what I was thinking. I said, well, let me find you something. And so through my contacts and all these years, now that you're older, you know everybody who does this and that. And I just made a few phone calls. And it's like, yeah, we have a building. We have this and that. And so we got this building. We moved everything over, had a big yard. And so then he realized, what, we could have more dump trucks. There's so much work in the area. So he started buying dump trucks. And so came down to who was dispatching and helping him. Another opportunity the Lord put to both of us, but to me, because I'm the hiring guy, right? And this guy, he puts out for a dispatcher. The first guy, we take this first guy out to lunch, so we're grilling this guy. And he was talking, and because I'm just like, I thought we were going to have to kiss a bunch of frogs. We're not. We're not kissing frogs to find the right guy, right? This is the guy. So my boss, we go out after lunch, we get in the truck, and he says, so what you think of that guy? I looked at him, and this is probably, I should have probably said this, but I said, if you don't hire that guy, you're stupid. He's like, what? I said, that dude, that's your guy right there. I said, there's not one thing about that guy that, and because in the conversation it came up, about he had some church. He was churched, with him and his wife, and a long time. His kids are successful. I'm like, that's your guy. That's your guy. This is not some redneck truck driver, that you're trying to bring out of somewhere. And there's a lot of those to pick from. So I said, that's your guy. Hire him. So we hired him, and he just did incredible, things. He had contacts. He brought it all in. We treated him fairly, and treating people fairly that is the most important trait you'll ever have as a leader. If you can't be fair, don't think you can lead, because you're like a guy, that with no influence, and leadership. Here's another thing, life saying I just, hammered on my kids. Leadership is influence. Period. Just put a period right there. If you can't influence people to follow you, you're just taking a walk. That's all you're doing. And this guy came in, and with all of us, and just being fair, we just were open and honest. we just took this thing. So within 3 years, it went from $3 million in revenue to $9 million, and from 6 trucks to 17 dump trucks with trailers. And it was of course, now I'm back in that stress load. And I told him I'd work for him for 3 years in the beginning. That was the agreement. So that was at the end of the third year. He came to me and he says, hey, your contract's up. Our agreement is up. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. He said, well, take a vacation. Take a vacation. Just go take some time off. So I put my motorcycle in a little trailer I had, put it on the back of the motorhome. I told Kim, this is what's going on. She was, had been heavily involved in a senior center. So she said, look, just go. Go take a trip, figure this out, whether you want to come back and go to work for him or whatever, whatever. So I came down to Havasu, brought the motor home where we were planning to move to. We'd been staking out houses. We'd, spent a lot of time there. Loved Lake Havasu, Arizona. So came down, spent a week in Lake Havasu, and I'm just not feeling it. It's like, she's like, find a house, find whatever, get us ready because we're ready to go. So I went there for a week, and my uncle over here outside of Lubbock in Turkey, Texas, this was 3 years ago. He had cancer for several years. He was sick, and I really feel like I need to go see him again. I'd seen him like a year before or something. So I called Kim. I said, hey, I'm going over to the farm. I'm just going to take off. It's just not feeling Havasu. Something's not right. So she says, fine. I pull into the farm. This is my childhood home.
Cool.
They send us, because once we moved to Seattle, they sent us back to the farm for cotton and peanut every year. We had to be right in there every summer, all summer, changing water pipe, all of that cotton stripping. We were in there in the falls. It was cotton stripping and stuff, but they sent us back for all that stuff. So I came to my uncle's farm, helped him work on his house a little bit, and realized, he's at the end of his life. But the opportunity to work on his house, to get it done, and to be a blessing to them, they just needed work. And if you know anything about the farm area, they really don't have carpenters. There's an opportunity. Ding! You got somebody pick up on that? Ding! Opportunity in these farm towns. If you're a good carpenter and have a heart really to help, you may not get rich at it, but it's a very enriching job. To start helping these people who don't have access to, they have the money, to pay for this. They're not rich, but they'll pay, to have their stuff taken care of and repairs and all that kind of stuff. But so I started doing that for my aunt and uncle, and ended up spending 3 weeks on the farm. I had an open-ended ticket, to stay as long as I wanted. But in bringing them, when I was there, they had been coming to Lubbock for treatments for his cancer. So 2 or 3 times a week, I'd drive them into Lubbock and drop them off at the appointment. It was an hour and a half appointment, and I'd drop them off. I'd drive around Lubbock, and all of a sudden, it's like this town. I don't know what, hot, flat, and dry.
It's like sirens just calling.
It's just that's exactly what it was, and I was like,
come off the boat.
Yeah. And of course, my first thought is like,
we'll never leave.
Well, my first thought was, no, please, Lord, no. I left this town when I was 10 years old. No, am I gonna go? And I remember going back to the farm. I had my motor home. I'm sitting out there. It's just bliss. Was out at night in Texas farm. It was a warm night. The stars, how stars are out in the farms out there.
They're big and bright.
Oh,
they wrote a song about that.
Yeah, they did. And there's a reason too. And so just out there, and it's just like, oh. And it's just like the Lord just put his hand on me and said, it's okay. Lubbock is okay. You'll be fine. So I called Kim and I said, I don't think we're going to Lake Havasu. She's like, okay, well, where are we going? I said, I think we're going to Lubbock, Texas. Oh, okay. She was like, as long as we're out of here. She's just like,
okay,
as long
good.
as we're out of here. And so that's the story. And I wanted to put this out because when you talked about opportunities, it's like, I have something to say about opportunities. I've seen opportunities. I've seen good opportunities. I've seen bad opportunities for myself and for other people. But there are some principles in life that will apply to every opportunity you have or don't have. And the first one is, when it comes to opportunity, you can either wait for it or you can create one for yourself. And I highly recommend you create your own opportunities because there are plenty of them that will come your way. But the ones, that you do. And I'll say this, if I had to say a final word in it, I will say this, that the young people that have come to me in the years, they look at my life and then they start hearing what I've just shared with you guys, and they're like, well, how do you know? And it's like, you don't know. You don't know. But this you do know. For one, you're only going to get out of life what you put into it. If you can't put that video game controller down and make a life for yourself by the time you're 33 years old, you're doing something wrong, really. Because you're waiting for the opportunity, to fall on you. And so don't wait, because you're only, if you're not putting anything into life, don't think anyone's going to give you anything. After you play video games for 15 years, after your 15th birthday, and now you're still doing it constantly, you have no skill, you have no value, you have no content to bring to anybody's table or any opportunity. Don't think the Lord's going to give you an opportunity, because he's just not going to do that to somebody. He just not going to do it. So to put the initiative forward, if you just pick up your feet and start moving, the opportunities will be there. But you have to get out of your basement and go look around. And then, because you're not going to see it from where you're sitting. If you're stuck in the mud, you feel like you're stuck, you're not going to see an opportunity, and you're not going to create an opportunity, from that place. So, like I said, and I can just go on and on. Like I said, if you want to hear all of my they call them Papa-isms. My kids and grandkids call them Papa-isms.
Yeah.
If you want to hear all of them, call my kids and grandkids. And they're like, oh, you got a million of them. But,
I think that was great, Cal.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. There's a lot of wisdom.
That was better than a ride at Disneyland.
Yeah.
What just happened?
It's like,
What's happened? This is like a living Forrest Gump right here.
opportunity,
that's
story,
what I
lesson.
feel like.
Have you been
that.
into outer space yet?
Not yet.
That's an opportunity.
That's the next one.
That's the next one, yeah.
Little contracts on Mars.
Blue Horizon calls. He's like, I don't know. We need a property.
Yeah. Yep. No, and there's been an aspect of my life too. And if you want to do another podcast, I mean, I'd make myself available, because it's something that's happening to me right now. And it's been we haven't even gone anywhere. I think I just mentioned the bluegrass, having a bluegrass band. There was a side of my life. There's been a thread through my life, and it's been music. It's just been, picking up a guitar when I was young. And so in everything that I've talked about here and all this craziness, there has been a music thread through it. And so the opportunities and the experiences that all have to do with the music business and the music, the business of playing music. And you talk about stories. We could do another whole podcast on that from the perspective of just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Then we should.
Yeah,
we should.
Just because you could sing a song, a certain kind of song, doesn't mean you should. So,
Well, that is that can be the next episode. In the meantime, I just want to let everyone know that thank you, Cal, for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
And look for opportunities, but also don't be afraid to go out and take them and use them.
Yeah, I was hoping to mention a little more on that, but why people question why are they stuck today? Fear, the shame, of coming and say, hey, I made a bad decision. Now I'm against the wall. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Get over that fear. The fear of walking into a radio station and saying, I want to be a disc jockey. Get over that fear, because that's that's
what's going to keep you stuck.
Yeah, that's what keeps everybody stuck. It's just that fear of change. How people are and stuff. But yeah, if you can push through your fears. There's nothing I've ever done that was fearful. Sitting at that that radio station, I was fearful. That was mortifying.
Well, that sounds like another podcast too.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
oh man, well, let us sit with that. I think the cameras are dying, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you.
Anytime, Cal. Thank you.
Go so. If you want to know more about the Bible or you have any questions, our email is in the description below. You can DM us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a church family or you're in the Lubbock area, we invite you to come visit and hang out with us in Milwaukee. We love for you to find a church who practices the love of Christ.